From the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Brooke Jensen, and here are your 10 a.m. news headlines. A 16-kilogram Sukata tortoise is looking for a new home after he was found wandering through a Metro Vancouver farm alone. The tortoise has been named Frank the Tank and was first spotted about 2 weeks ago. Frank reportedly was so big that the woman who found him, Shelley Smith, needed the help of a construction worker to help move him. A community animal center in Maple Ridge has taken Frank in for the time being and is the first reptile to be in their care. Our reporter Nicholas Poitras is reporting on this story today and will give us an update later today. The Russian parliament has given approval to the bill that would revoke the ratification of a nuclear test ban. The U.S. has signed the treaty that bans nuclear testing, but they have not ratified it, meaning they can still test on nuclear weapons. An ABC reporter, Tom Rivers, gives us more insight.
За 412, против нет, воздержавшихся нет.
The Speaker of the lower parliamentary house announcing the vote to rescind, 412 for, 0 against. A final vote's expected later this week. He says it's an answer to the U.S. to its attitude towards its responsibilities in maintaining global security. President Putin warned earlier this month that Moscow could make such a move to mirror the American position. Moscow said last week that it will only resume nuclear tests if Washington does it first. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
An agreement has been signed by BC's Simquan Nation and the Stoney Nation in Alberta. The agreement is over sharing hunting privileges within their respected territories in what is now Jasper National Park. The agreement is based on a deal that went on between the two communities back in 1895. The Simquan chief, George Lampreau, says they are reconnecting the ties and lifting each other up while also reconnecting to their respective land. Both nations agreed that conservation and sustainability is of the utmost importance, and agreed to respect a balance between Indigenous rights to harvest as well as ecological integrity and needs. Two towns in southern Gaza, where Israel has instructed people to take refuge, has now had an intense bombardment. Hamas military says an attack this morning on a refugee camp in central Gaza left a top Hamas commander dead. On one of the southern parts of Gaza, Rafah, is where thousands of people are trying to escape by crossing into Egypt, but the border is still closed and they have not been able to do so. Mediators are trying to get an agreement that will aid and allow refugees with foreign passports out of the country. However, there is still no detail of this yet on any casualties or injuries in the southern parts of Gaza, but we will be updating you when there is more information. But with that, aid workers report that Gaza is near complete collapsation. But President Joe Biden is headed to Israel, Jordan, and Egypt tomorrow to attempt to aid the humanitarian crisis. Going on to our weather report for today, it's going to be cloudy all day, of course, with a little bit of rain this morning that has since passed, but there is a small chance of getting more of it later today, but it is only a small chance. However, Environment Canada has issued several wind and heavy rain warnings along the coast as a potential storm comes in. The winds are expected to flow up to 110 kilometers per hour up and down the central coast of BC, ending at Haida Gwaii and the island. Vancouver Island is also expected to have heavy amounts of rainfall that will start today and end tomorrow morning. And that was your news headlines for 10 a.m. I'm Brooke Jensen, and you are listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
You're listening to 1680 The Crow, and this is For the Record. I'm your host, Ben Bugera. Loneliness and social isolation is an issue that affects many across the Lower Mainland. Data from Vancouver Coastal Health estimates that 259,000 individuals in Metro Vancouver report social isolation as a contributing cause to their feelings of stress. The data also shows 6.6% of seniors in the area experience social isolation, which is second only to middle-aged people at 7.1%. 47% of respondents to the survey reported having only 1 to 3 individuals they could confide in. I spoke with retired United Church minister and member of the Brockhouse Carrisdale Seniors Choir, Reverend Sharon Copeman, about how her choir helps provide a safe space for people who may be experiencing social isolation. Vancouver Coastal Health reported recently that 6.6% of seniors aged 65 and up reported that they experienced loneliness, which is second highest after middle-aged people.
Wow.
Yeah, no. How important is it to have communities like Brockhouse that provide a community for seniors who are experiencing loneliness?
I think it's vitally important. I'm aware that there are community centers in other jurisdictions that around the Lower Mainland. There's senior centers in every community that I can think of, and they're well used, I think.
In terms of music, and specifically referring to the Brockhouse Choir, it's something that really is universally enjoyed by everyone. So how do you feel like choirs like yours provide a space for people to share their joy of music?
For us in Brockhouse Choir, having the space and the opportunity to be together and to sing together. We had the illustration of how important it is to have somebody singing actually beside you, around you. When COVID happened and we did a sing-along thing with our director, she was the one who was not on mute, and the rest of us around the city were, on Zoom, and but we could only hear ourselves. And I think we had not maybe been as aware of that, of the importance of having people around us until that happened. And yes, we were singing with Elsie because we could hear her voice and hear her instrument, her piano keyboard, but we couldn't hear anybody close. And so when we got back together, although we were cautious, we were not sitting as close together as we would normally have been. Many of us commented on what a difference it made, how much better we felt singing physically together with others around us. Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
While you still were able to continue meeting together virtually, the importance of having that space, that community in person, really just an important thing that to have that experience, that communal togetherness?
Yes, I do. The having the Zoom thing was helpful. It was very important and very helpful. And it did relieve our loneliness, our sense of isolation, I think, a lot. We used the Zoom every week in our regular practice time. And but I was aware that the important thing with that was that Elsie invited us to comment on the songs and to share our feelings about the songs or our experience of the songs. So there was conversation as well. And that was, I think, maybe as important as the singing. Whereas when we're together physically, conversation is not as important because we're singing together, we're enjoying the music together, we're hearing the harmony around us and the sense of togetherness.
What do you think the scale of this problem is around the area of Vancouver, especially for seniors? And what do you think needs to happen? Do you think there needs to be more resources like Brockhouse to help tackle loneliness in Vancouver?
Well, I think that the senior centers are important, and but I think there do need to be more opportunities. Churches provide one opportunity for sure, and I think the fact that so many of the churches are are mostly older people, maybe that's why, because younger people are doing other things and finding other ways of being together. But for seniors who have grown up in the church, at least, that context is another place, another option.
Obviously, with your experience in ministry and in pastoral care, you've done a lot in terms of just reaching out to people who are experiencing isolation. Do you think, like through churches and through senior centers, do you think there's enough work being done to reach out to those people who may feel that they can't reach out?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think that there are introverts and extroverts, and people on the borders, close to the center of that line. And so for some people, I have friends who are introverted who have said to me, COVID really wasn't a challenge for me. I was comfortable being by myself, and these were people who lived alone. So there are differences among us. However, those introverted friends also expressed their appreciation for the fact that I was reaching out to them. So I think, we need to be aware of each other and be aware of the needs that are around us wherever we are. And having those centers, those locales that are focused on that is vitally important.
In terms of just having those groups available, what do you think singing does to provide that gives that sense of togetherness for people experiencing isolation? I
think singing is for me, it's a spiritual experience. So therefore, there's a deeper sense of awareness of others' spirits as well. So music touches us deeply, whether it's singing, whether it's playing an instrument, whether it's listening. Music touches us and gives us an opportunity to go deeper. And when we do that with other people, there's a deep connection that is very special and very precious.
Do you think that oftentimes it's just simply reaching out to your neighbors, checking in on people who may be isolated or living alone in your community, just simply checking up on the people around you?
Yes, I definitely think that's important. And I think it's something that is hard to do. I find it's particularly difficult in Vancouver, and I don't know why. I think perhaps it's because we have a very gentle climate, and we're not aware of needing each other as much as we actually do need each other. I grew up in Saskatchewan and at a time when there was a lot of snow, and we actually needed each other to shovel each other out and push each other out when we got stuck in the snow. And I think it made a difference in how I felt about my neighbors, and my awareness that they were there for me and I needed to be there for them. And when we moved to Vancouver, I was aware that people tended to shy away from greeting one another. I think in Vancouver we are much more unaware of our neighbors, and we need to be more aware of them, because there are people around us who actually probably deep down are wishing that they would know their neighbors better.
That was Reverend Sharon Copeman speaking on social isolation and loneliness on For the Record. I'm Ben Bugera, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Trettanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good morning. This is Anthony Atanisov with 1680 The Crow. It's 10:30. Here's what's making news this morning. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly is offering her condolences to the family of an Israeli woman with Canadian parents who was confirmed dead after being reportedly kidnapped by Hamas. Joly had a message for Canadians still in Tel Aviv, Israel, and the West Bank.
If you want to leave, please contact Global Affairs Canada. If you're given a spot, please take it, because we don't know how long this operation will be able to continue, as the situation is very volatile. If you are in Lebanon, it is now time to leave while commercial flights are available.
While 2 Canadians are still missing, Joly said that on Tuesday, evacuation flights from Tel Aviv will transport Canadians to Athens. Moving on to Canada, Canada's inflation rate edged down to 3.8% in September as prices across the economy rose more slowly. Lower prices for phone services, natural gas, airfares, and furniture helped pull inflation down. Offsetting that were mortgage interest costs, rent and gas prices. And Bank of Montreal macro strategist Benjamin Reitzes says despite the move down the inflation rate, the Bank of Canada's worries are not yet over.
The levels, unfortunately, are still much too high for the Bank of Canada. So that is still something they are going to highlight. They are still going to be concerned about inflation. This is one report. We need to get more of this for them to really back off on their worries on inflation, but it is certainly a step in the right direction.
It is still hard to speculate when the inflation numbers will fall to the 2% Bank of Canada target. In local news, charges have been laid against a man regarding a case where a runaway delivery van killed a woman walking on a sidewalk in Surrey almost 3 years ago. Gio Jakurian has been charged with one count of dangerous operation of a motor vehicle causing death in connection with the fatal collision, according to a news release from the Surrey RCMP today. The woman was struck on December 15th, 2020, and Kurian is suspected to make a court appearance on October 31st. More coming out of Surrey. Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke says officials are reviewing new legislation that would force it to continue its transition to a municipal police force. Locke declined to comment specifically about the amendments and their effects on a petition the City of Surrey filed in BC Supreme Court last week. The city asked the court for a judicial review to assess whether Solicitor General Mike Farnworth had the authority to force a municipality to move to an independent police force. Without offering enough funding to support such a move, Locke says the city isn't backing down on its stance that continuing the transition to an independent police force instead of retraining the RCMP would present a significant burden for Surrey taxpayers.
The City of Surrey has made a position. We're not changing that position, and so we'll be reviewing the legislation and see what happens as we move forward. I'm not going to speculate about that legislation. We're still in that reviewing process.
Farnworth doubled down and said Surrey must continue with the transition. Moving on to BC News, construction sites with more than 25 workers must now be provided with flushable toilets, according to a new law being put in place. Premier David Eby spoke at the BC Building Trades Constitutional Convention in Victoria Monday morning. Eby said that if we want people to work in the trades, the basic ability to go to a bathroom that doesn't stink, that isn't a mess, where you can flush a toilet, is a basic requirement for a decent job site. So far, the details of the law have not yet been outlined. Now moving on to your local weather, well, it's looking like a typical Vancouver day in the fall. 12 degrees, mostly cloudy with a 90% chance of showers, expected to start at 11. For commuters out there, make sure to exercise caution while driving. It's looking like it's going to rain all day going into the night, so watch out for those slippery roads. And that's it for your 10:30 updates. Thank you for joining me on 1680 The Crow. I'm Anthony Atanesov. Stay tuned for your next updates with your host, Brooke Jensen, at 11 o'clock.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Siggi-Kane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
too fast because my heart is going a bit too fast, so I'm going to slow it down a bit. Hey,
We're like middlemen straight from the creator making these moves.
We're all kind of misfits.
Something to look forward to, you know? I feel like it's important. Like usually I'll just be like, grab my arm, and then you just kind of like pull them like a T-bar, you know?
I think skateboarding is a piece of medicine in itself.
We're just doing the work in hopes that eventually we'll have chapters of other nations skate youth in other parts of Turtle Island.
It's nations, skate yours.
Nation Skate Youth started in my living room, organically. I was asked to go to Fort St. John to talk about mental health and bring skateboarding. I didn't know who to bring, and the first person I thought of was Joe Buffalo. Big inspiration in my life.
Joe came up with the name. It didn't really click at first, but after a while we made the logo and everything, and it all just came together so fast.
I think one of my main goals when I started Nations was to get more skate parks on reserves. We realized that this would be a bigger thing, to not just go to one community. We wanted to go to all the communities.
We all wanted to, create something that was like a youth program to help empower like youths through skateboarding. It's a way of getting yourself out of your own shell. And I feel like in a lot of First Nations communities, there's not a lot to do in those communities. It's very small, and sometimes you feel like you're trapped. A lot of them are really nervous when we first meet them. And I feel like when we always start with a talking circle. So it's like we tell our stories, and we kind of we try to make them feel comfortable, and tell them why we're there, and what we're gonna do in the day.
Everyone here is a new beginner or has skated before, and we're here to help each other. If you fall down, take a breath, get back up.
Everything's that way in the beginning, you know what I mean? You're gonna feel out of place when you're beginning, you know what I mean? That's normal. But once you meet your crowd, and that's half the battle with us growing up, is trying to find your people so that they grow with them from a young age as family members, and then they grow as skateboarders.
Gives you like a sense of identity too, you know? Like every time I went to school, I'd always be like, I can't wait to go skate after, or having that, something to look forward to, you know? I feel like it's important when you're a kid.
Especially having a brother. It's easier to influence each other to do things, and you progress faster because of that. And it's like always having a friend there, and always having that safety net in a sense.
Skating is something that we grew up doing together. I feel like that kept us close, Skateboarding is part of my identity, and my family is part of my identity.
Just let skateboarding do its thing. It's that rich, All we do is connect and instill that, plant that seed. It's something I never had growing up,
Seeing Joe skateboard at his level and hearing that he went to the residential school and the way that kids oh, my dad went to residential school. Oh, my brother did. Oh, my mom did. They start to relate. And I think that, it's been a healing journey. Skateboarding, like I said, will take you out of all the negative, all the darkness that you feel. And once you get on a skateboard, that's an opportunity for you just to focus on something and be present.
Like even in my community, there's suicides like every year, and it's really sad because you lose knowledge keepers, you lose, you know, momentum, like you lose just youth that have a lot of potential. And I remember Rosie, that was the biggest reason why she wanted to start Nations.
You know, to talk about alcohol, drugs, and suicide, because it's happening and they're so young and they see it and they're experiencing it. And just to let them know, like, that they're valued.
It kind of stops that intergenerational trauma because it's a lot of self-doubt, and skateboarding kind of gives you that, you know, that recognition that like it's not, yeah, it just gives you that freedom to express yourself.
Hell yeah.
So today I was skateboarding on the skate park and I was just learning. I was a little nervous at first, but then I got the hang of it. He made me feel happy. Okay, can we do that again?
Yeah, let's do it again. Okay, I'll go on this side of you.
Because he is a good skateboarder and he taught me how to do some tricks. Apple turnover and like tic-tac.
When you have someone believing in you and cheering you on, like that whole feeling, and that's how I try to do with Nations, you know, like you got it, you're there, and the just like the inspiring and like the empowerment you get from that, it's a good feeling. We want the youth to be their best selves. We want them to know that everything isn't going to be easy. But once they start skateboarding and you can see that they're pushing on their own and they're able to do tricks right away, and I think that's something that is so positive, and you know, it's gonna create leadership and create community where there hasn't been. What I've seen at Nations that makes me proud, when I ask a youth how to count in their language or say hello or thank you in their language, and they can tell me.
So kikiu means eagle, musquasses means bear, kukam means auntie, grandma, musha means grandpa, and tuk-tuk means duck.
What's your favorite word in Cree?
Eagle because I'm an eagle.
In so many ways, I was trying to find myself in skateboarding, like the community skateboarding has, which has been really fulfilling in a lot of ways. But I think connecting to my culture, you really do feel that connection with your ancestors when you do that stuff. I feel like with Nations, we're able to use skateboarding as like a tool to empower youth and to like give them, I know Rosie always said it, but like, you know, be proud of who you are and be proud of where you come from. And I feel like it rings so true in so many of the communities that we go to.
To be proud of who you are, be proud of where you come from, not to be ashamed. I feel like when you start telling them that at a young age, it's going to change the way they look at themselves, the way they carry on their culture and their traditions, the way that they will have that close relationship with their grandparents, and to learn. I know for me, I've heard stories that broke me, that completely broke me. And it made me mad, it made me angry, it made me sad, it made me pissed right off at the government. But when you're around youth, you know, you want to show them the hope. You definitely want to show them that there's hope out there.
Because it's needed. Someone's got to be here for the youth. Someone's got to be that person, that older brother, older sister needed, that kind of needed, you know? There's nothing like it. So that's why we figured give back. I'm here to teach you. You're not going to fall. I'm going to hold you, okay? Give me your hands. We're just getting started, man.
Having self-determination to be better and to create that community, I think, is something that we want to pass down to the youth as well. Show them what's possible.
Look, Joanna, hey, hey, look, Joanna, hey, hey, CGLA, hey, hey, CGLA, hey, hey, RGLA.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good morning. I'm Brooke Jensen with your 11 a.m. news. Construction sites in BC will be legally required to bring in flush toilets on job sites. Our reporter Ugiloy Suvanova found out that David Eby announced a plan to bring in legislation for sites with over 25 workers.
BC construction workers launched a campaign calling on the province to make flush toilets mandatory on construction sites. There are $358 billion worth of construction projects in BC. The construction industry contributed $25 billion to the province GDP last year alone. Construction workers build the infrastructure that the British Columbians rely upon every day. On Monday, Premier David Eby granted constructor workers' wish and has announced that BC NDP government will be bringing in a legal requirement for flush toilets. Eby says if we want people to work in the trades, flush toilets is a basic requirement for decent job sites. I'm Ugiloy Suvanova for 1680 The Crow.
The Richmond RCMP is facing backlash after a 41-second road safety video. In the video, a woman is going for a walk in the daytime with her headphones in both ears and her hood over her head. She hits the crosswalk button, waits for it to flash, and then crosses. They then show a man who is driving and looks at his phone, nearly hitting her. Both the pedestrian and the driver look shaken. He puts his phone down. She takes out her headphones. The video then says pedestrian safety is a two-way street. People quickly took to X, formerly Twitter, to state their anger, saying he was breaking the law, she was not, and feel the RCMP is victim-blaming the pedestrian. Sergeant Eric Basket reports that fall is the worst time of year for pedestrians to get injured by cars, and that they are just reminding everyone to be safe. The former Saskatchewan Human Rights Commissioner, Heather Katai, says she had no choice but to resign over the province's pronoun legislation, which bans youth under 16 to change their names and pronouns without parental consent. Katai says the policy is an assault on human rights and of vulnerable children, and that her son is transgender. The Saskatchewan Justice Minister, Bronwyn Airey, says that she is sorry to hear of Katai's resignation, but the minister says that people have different views on the pronoun policy. The war and violence in the Middle East continues to rage on. Israeli authorities say roughly 200 people have been captured and taken hostage by Hamas and kept in Gaza.
Hamas releasing the first official video of a young Israeli woman it kidnapped. She's among the 199 hostages taken. 21-year-old Mia Shem speaking to the camera with a bandaged arm, insisting she's being treated well, asking to go home to her family. Her mom telling reporters she's relieved Mia is alive. But that may not be the case. It's unclear when the video was made, Israel calling it, quote, psychological warfare by Hamas. Jordana Miller, ABC News, Jerusalem.
The hostages could possibly include at least 3 Canadians, with the 6th Canadian casualty being confirmed. Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine has carried out one of the most destructive Russian air attacks since the beginning of the war. He reports the assault was done with longer-range ballistic missiles donated to them by the United States. Reportedly, dozens of Russian military personnel were injured.
They struck basically 2 Russian forward air bases inside occupied Ukraine, one in the south in Berdyansk and another in Lugansk up in the northeast. And what we've heard so far from the Ukrainians is they claim they've destroyed at least 9 Russian helicopters, which would be a huge number in a single strike.
The man accused of gunning down 2 Swedish soccer fans in Brussels has been killed by Belgian police, and the gun has been recovered. That was your 11 o'clock newscast. I am Brooke Jensen, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.